What up, everybody? Welcome to the State of Wild, episode 11, a regular podcast, YouTube video, web series thing. As usual, we've got CorbettGames joining us tonight. Corbett, how are you doing tonight, friend?
Hey, what's up, Meowth? I'm doing really well. Just got back into WAD. Heard some great news about the format, which we're going to jump into.
Yeah.
So looking forward to talking everything over.
And so you guys know the drill by now. We're going to be doing three things during today's episode. So first of all, we're going to be talking about the state of the wild metagame. So what's dominating, how to beat it, and decks that might be flying underneath the radar. Second off, we're going to be talking about any wild news, controversial topics, or maybe the lack thereof. And last but not least, we'll be talking about our decks of the week. And so just a moment before we get started, a reminder to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you guys enjoy content like this. All right, let's get into it. So, State of the Wild meta. Dude, we're going to have a brand new meta. So, we've got NERFS announced on Thursday. And before we go any further, I just want to say you guys are welcome. We are now 2 for 2 on Nerf callouts on this podcast. So, hi dev team, how are you? So we're getting 3 nerfs, and 2 of them are relevant for Wild. So we're going to talk about Darkglare and Secret Passage. So Darkglare is going from a 3-mana 3/4. Whenever you take damage, refresh 2 mana crystals to a 2-mana 2/3, refresh 1 mana crystal. And we'll talk about the impact on the deck, but this kind of essentially kills the current iteration of current Darkglare Warlock. So yay. And Secret Passage going from seeing 5 cards from your deck to seeing 4. And that one's a little bit more nuanced, and so we'll dive into that a little bit later. But before we go any further, if you guys haven't seen the thread from Alec, who works on the design team now, Alec Dawson, he gave some pretty great insight, I think, into the reasoning behind these nerfs. And so Secret Passage was both for Wild and Standard. It's just one of the best cards in Rogue in general across both formats. And so going to 4, he says, takes some of the raw power, but still gives you the solid draw option for aggressive decks, which is kind of like its whole sole purpose. So yeah, it's good. They said it was a question of when, not if they nerfed the card, so I'm glad it happened now. And then Darkglare. So this is, they acknowledge this is basically a Wild nerf, right? This change was mainly done for Wild. Darkglare was fairly rampant and creates early board states that make for a lot of non-games, which is kind of the big complaint about the deck. And then the change from 2/3 and 1 mana being refreshed is aimed to retain some of its identity in a smaller form. So I know you wanted to say a little something about kind of the Nerf philosophy now for Wild from the dev team that we've seen in the past year or so.
Yeah, for sure. Like, people have like different opinions on Wild nerfs, but Blizzard has generally made their feelings kind of clear, I think, where they're identifying decks that have really, really insane early board game swings and have really kind of extreme power levels. So previously, Ixar had a whole bunch of tweets where he was talking about things like Mech Paladin when that first popped up, and then Darkest Hour, Naga, Sniplock, and now Darkglare is another example where it just has this really absurd power swing early, and they kind of just want to limit that if they are going to touch the format. So yeah, Alec is definitely a great place to go if there's any nerfs at all. When the nerfs were announced, I messaged Meowth and I was like, I didn't know whether it was like a standard nerf, whether it was like a play experience issue there, or whether it was actually targeted at Wild. And then Alec later confirmed that, yep, this is for Wild. This is exactly the reason why it got hit. So yeah, definitely a great place to check out there. But yeah, it's been really interesting getting all that kind of insight on why exactly they made those kind of changes, and very happy that they are making those kind of changes when they feel necessary in Wild.
Yeah, I'm super excited. This is, I think, going to shake up the meta, and we'll talk about how we foresee the metagame playing out a little bit later, but I'm really excited about like Darkglare when it first burst onto the scene. I kind of wanted to wait and see, like, is this actually OP, or like they're hit like counters that are going to rise? No, it was OP, okay? And so I'm glad it got hit. I'm very happy with it. And I think that there's a big point that, in general, I think the balance team has gotten a lot better at nerfing cards in ways that still keep them playable, right? I think at a 3-mana 3/4 refresh 1, Darkglare's pretty unplayable. But with it being down to 2 mana, I think there's some still interesting play patterns available to Darkglare Warlock, right? I think it goes 2 directions. I think there's like a Zooey Darkglare deck now it's Zoolock with a self-damage theme. And I've also seen people theory crafting it in stuff like Evenlock, right, with a 1 mana hero power, so it's basically a free tap. But yeah, I'm really happy with both of these changes. I'm assuming you are too.
Yeah, so this Nerf philosophy that they've had, where they're keeping cards very playable and stuff, this has been going on for a very long time. There's kind of like an old meme where like Blizzard nerfed stuff to the point of unplayability, which really happened with things like Warsong. But that just hasn't been true for a long time. And so generally speaking, ever since like the Bone Mare, Raza era, they've almost always kept cards that they've nerfed very playable and made you actually think about whether you want to include it, or made it like a borderline include. And I feel like Darkglare is just like another straight up example of that. And hey, Secret Pass is an example of that. Cabal is another example of that, where the cards are still on the fringe of playable, or even are still strong. But they're not this like as powerful, they're not complete like insane difference makers the way that they were originally printed and stuff. So they're like interesting questions, they're interesting deck building choices and stuff. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how I'm interested in seeing whether Darkglare is playable or not, like as a card, as a package, whether it's in a similar list to what's seeing play now, which I think is not that likely. But I think that Darkglare as a card could definitely see play in something like Discard Warlock moving forward. A lot of people experimented with Darkglare before the expansion in Discard Warlock, and it wasn't that great. But with things like Raise Dead coming in, there might be some real reason to go back to that package and a real revival of Discard Warlock with the kind of vacuum that's created in the meta.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And before we kind of dive on into that a little bit further, so for those of you guys that might not know, Corbett and I both work with the team at Vicious Syndicate to help produce the Wild Meta reports. And so there was a report coming soon, but unfortunately, with these nerfs being announced, we're kind of scrapping that Wild report, which kind of sucks. But I just wanted to pass along a few of the insights that their like analysis team had from their data set. That basically Reno Priest and Darkglare were above and beyond pretty much everything else in the format, which is kind of what we felt like. But Darkglare was close to a tier 0 deck by their metrics, right? It was a very, very strong deck with about a 56% win rate, I believe, with its only unfavorables being Priest and Odd Warrior. And so I'll eat my words a little bit. I thought, I agreed. I thought Priest and Darkglare were the two best decks, but I was still kind of on this train of Reno Priest being the best. But yeah, Darkglare and Priest, pretty meta warping, and Darkglare, as we know it as a combo deck, is kind of gone. And so it'll be interesting to see how the metagame kind of shapes up afterwards.
Darkglare being the tier 0 was something that I was definitely feeling over the past week or two. I did feel that there was like a significant gap between that and Raza Priest. So to hear those kind of words from the Vicious Syndicate guys, like after the nerfs were announced, really just was sort of like, I don't know, just it's kind of what I was expecting, and it's nice to get that kind of affirmation, I suppose. But yeah, it was very interesting and very bummed out that we don't get the Vicious Syndicate report. We keep on just missing these. This has happened a couple times where we've been like a week out, and then the nerfs happen and we get set back another month. But hopefully we get one at some point.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, so let's talk about decks in specific. We've kind of touched a lot on Darkglare and how I call it a combo deck now. The combo deck as we know it with Darkglare is kind of dead. And so we've touched on it a little bit. We've talked about the potential of it being an even lock or just a regular zoo list, right? Transforming this combo list into kind of a zooey list, or just being kind of included with Flesh Giants and maybe Raise Dead in a discard package. Because Discard Warlock before Skull and Man's Academy was actually pretty damn good. It was very good. Mm-hmm. And so maybe that package fits in that deck with like Canrithad, and now your Flame Imps and Cobalt Librarians are kind of even more bonkers than they already were in Discard Warlock, which is kind of insane. But I think more interestingly is this change to Secret Passage. Because it was kind of a more general overall power level nerf. And so you guys will see this on the screen, but we're going to talk about the two main decks that I was seeing play in Kingsbane and Odd Rogue. So you kind of want to talk about Kingsbane and the power level of Secret Passage in that deck, because I think a lot of people underestimate actually how broken this card was in that deck.
Yeah, so this list of Kingsbane, which is actually my Kingsbane list from very early expansion, it has like a really, really big sample of games that got net decked pretty heavily. And so we have like a really, really good picture of just how busted Passage was. And the answer was really busted. Like it was very, very clearly the best card in the deck. Not an argument. Like it was a complete like difference between that and the second and third and so on best cards. But what really stands out here is this is kind of very reminiscent to me of nerfs to things like Anchor, or a nerf to things like Call to Arms, where you've got a card that is just so insanely powerful that even after it gets hit, I think it'll still be very good in the decks where it fits best. So I think that, like, just in the same way that Anchor was still one of the very top performing cards, in the same way with Call to Arms in Paladin decks, I think Passage in Kingsbane is still going to be one of the absolute best cards in the deck. It'll just be a little bit more in line with everything else. And yeah, it'll still be a really important piece for the deck moving forward. In Odd Rogue, it's a little bit of a different story. Odd Rogue, we have a much smaller sample of games, so we can't really be too precise. But, you know, just from playing it, this seems about in line, where Passage seems like a good card, but not one of the absolute best cards on the list. And so it'll probably still play it, I think. But it's not the ultimate difference maker, even if it's like not as good. I think it'll still see play and it'll still be fine, and both these rogue decks will still be good moving forward.
Yeah, I foresee both of these lists still playing the same 30 cards, like pre-buff, post-buff, or post-nerf. Okay, so we've talked about these three decks. So let's kind of take a step back and look big picture, and look at the metagame. Right, so this is basically impossible to do, but we're going to try to do it anyways, and kind of predict how we see the metagame shaping up post nerfs. Right, I've seen a lot of people's reactions in Twitch chat and in Discords and on Reddit be like, all right, well, we're going back to Quest Mage, Reno Priest, and aggro, coin flip meta again, woo. But I don't know if that's actually true. I feel like Quest Mage has gotten a lot of tools and it's had a little bit of refinement in its deck list, that maybe Quest Mage, like, it's not as dominant over Arena Priest as it used to be, right? Mm-hmm. And so I feel like ultimately it's going to end up being like Reno Priest, a little bit of Quest Mage, and then a bunch of decks with some really janky techs to try to beat Reno Priest, right? Stuff like Finley and Grizzle Wizard. I mean, what are your thoughts on how the metagame is going to play out?
It's so hard to predict. Like, whether a deck like Quest Mage is so feast and famine, where it's so dependent on what else is being played that makes it really difficult to predict. So if the meta is incredibly flooded with Arena Priest, which it might be, we don't know. If it's like a really significant, like 30-40% of the meta, Quest Mage will be good. Like, it has a favorable matchup there. It'll be good. If Arena Priest is still like of the top deck, but it isn't that popular for whatever reason, Quest Mage probably won't be that good, Like, it's so, because it does die so hard to these like aggressive archetypes that just entirely dependent. When a deck is this polarizing, when all decks like Quest Mage are this polarizing, then it just depends on exactly like how frequent are the counters, how frequent are the things that you're feasting on. And so do I think Quest Mage is going to be like really good once the nerfs go live? Probably not. No, I don't think Quest Mage will be that insane. I think that it still has the same weaknesses and same issues that it has really had since it got nerfed. And I think that it'll be very popular, particularly once the nerfs go live. And the reason I think it'll be so popular is because everyone thinks it'll be good. Yeah. Right? Like, people play what they think is going to be good. And it kind of takes a little bit for things to get figured out. Yeah, of course. But yeah, I think that Reno Priest as a whole will definitely be the focal point of the meta. It's going to be, as you said, like we're talking about the VS stuff. Reno Priest is insane. It's really good. The only reason it isn't like the best deck right now is because there's a literal tier 0 type archetype, which is incredibly rare. So Reno Priest is bonkers, and it's going to be the #1 target. And there's only a few decks really that can handle it. So there's not a ton of options that you've really got. But Quest Mage is one of these important options that players do have. So it'll be interesting to see how things play out. And just kind of how wacky things get in terms of the tech choices that you're talking about, in terms of like Reno Priest teching for the mirror with Lazul, Thought Steal. I don't know. Like, we'll wait and see.
Yeah, so a little bit of a follow-up question to that, because I've seen, maybe I shouldn't read too much into the YouTube comments or Twitch chat comments, but I've seen some people say that Reno Priest isn't that strong, right? It has counters, which I think is like a little bit, I'll just go out and say wrong. But I wanna talk about what makes Reno Priest so strong. Like, what are the specific things that the deck does that makes it so powerful, right? I mean, you've got the duplicate like singleton cards. So you've got standalone powerful cards in Zeph and Reno, and Raza, and then obviously you have the 3 card combination that can OTK pretty much any deck out there. And then basically the best anti-aggro tools, maybe outside of Odd Warrior, right? That any deck, any class has access to with priest removal. I mean, is it just a combination of really strong control deck with really powerful, staples, singleton staples, and then a very easy to assemble win con? Like, what do you think it is?
It's the immense amount of healing and removal that really targets the aggressive stuff, and then it has a very, very simple, easy to execute kind of like win con, right? And that's like the dream for any control deck, is to have like really simple. Do I just play this list? I don't have to collect like 5 cards. So Raza, Anduin, and then at some point you draw Spawn, GG. So it can go over the top of control decks. It can handle aggro decks really well. So the only weakness that is left is basically just the decks that can go under it. Just the decks that can combo off, that don't need the board, and that can go under that way with things like Quest Mage or Mali Druid. And Rat, Elucia, that kind of complicates things a lot. And then the only other way that you really target is by just messing with the Highlander condition, whether it's like beneath the grounds in Odd Rogue or bombs in like Bomb Warrior. And that's kind of the only really options you have. Really fast combo decks, mess with the Highlander, and it handles everything else super cleanly.
Yeah, so basically the moral of the segment, or the main takeaway from the segment, Arena Priest is strong, okay? And we predict it's going to be strong moving forward. And so because it's going to be so strong, I'm sure people that are listening to this are going to want to, tech their decks to beat Arena Priest, right? Because that's kind of the natural reaction. And so I know we complain, maybe I complain a lot about tech cards just because I feel like most of them are unnecessary or like over the top for a matchup that you're already favored into. But I mean, people are going to tech. So let's talk about what we think the best tech cards for some of the meta decks out there are going to be against Arena Priest. Outside of just playing Quest Mage or Mali Druid to try to combo out faster than them, what are some cards that you can include, right? So you talked a little bit about in the Arena Priest mirror, including stuff like Thoughtsteal and Lazul, which I think are okay because they're not like absolutely terrible cards. I mean, Thoughtsteal might be terrible in outside of the Arena Priest mirror. Lazul is fine, I think. But I've also seen some priests like teching Finley and Wizard themselves for the combo, which feels wrong. But it's I mean, outside of Lazul and Thoughtsteal, are there any other cards you'd include in Arena Priest to kind of disrupt the mirror?
I think those are like the 2 biggest ones, right? You just kind of want to cut back on removal. If you can add like more card draw or more disruption, I think that's probably decent. But yeah, Lazul, Thoughtsteal seem like the main standouts.
Yeah, and you're probably cutting out stuff like Shadowwood Ruin now and maybe Wave of Apathy, since Darkglare Warlock's not a thing anymore. So that's probably just what you're slotting in instead. And then Kingsbane and Odd Rogue, I think, are still going to be 2 very, very good decks in the metagame, and we touched a little bit about Beneath the Grounds. So if you guys haven't seen this card, it shuffles 3 ambushes into the opponent's deck, so it turns off their singleton cards. I haven't loved it in Kingsbane. You can maybe get away with it in Odd Rogue, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you can't play this in Kingsman. Kingsman can't afford to just like dead draw like this in so many matchups. Odd Rogue, you can always get away with it. That's the thing about these even and odd decks. They can play tech cards in ways that other decks just can't. It's always been like that, whether it be like Spellbreaker and Even Lock and Even Paladin, or just like Owl in like Odd Paladin and Odd Rogue. Those cards have typically always performed better because you always have access to the hero power, right? Like it's less about the cards that you have. You always have this really good fallback plan. So Odd Rogue, I think, can get away with Beneath the Grounds. It does actually beat Priest. Like I've seen some stuff on HS Replay, and it looks like, yes, this is actually quite effective. Odd Rogue with Beneath the Grounds. So if you just take the common list and you take out like South Sea Captains for Beneath the Grounds, good to go. Like that's your day one deck once the nerfs arrive, and I think it'll perform really well. I think Odd Rogue in general is one of the happiest like archetypes and like stuff with these nerfs because it didn't like Darkglare, and it has ways to really like deal with the meta with Arena Priest effectively, and it's like a very strong deck in general. But yeah, can't play this in Kingsman.
Well, I kind of want to touch on that a little bit. So you talked about it can't afford to have dead draws. Do you not think that access to double cutting class and double secret passage now gives you a little bit of flexibility in order to include the Beneath the Grounds because it's less likely to have a dead draw? Or do you still think that if you draw it without secret passage, you're kind of losing the game already if you're not against Arena Priest?
Yeah, I think it's still like way too big of an issue to into so many matchups. I really do think that the odd and even decks are really the only ones that can get away with something like this.
Yeah. All right, so you guys heard it here from Corbett. Day one, Odd Rogue with one copy of Beneath the Grounds should be good to go, right? Beats Quest Mage, beats Arena Priest.
Let's do 2 copies.
Two copies too? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Really screw them over. Okay, what about other aggro decks that are not Odd Rogue, right? Like if you're, or that are not Rogue in general, right? Whether you're an even odd deck or you're just, I don't know, playing Secret Mage. Is there anything you can do to beat Arena Priest other than like hoping they don't have the removal or don't have the Reno?
I mean, that's tough. The best things that come to mind might be things like Lothab and Boom Pistol Bully, depending on what deck you are. Again, this is something that's more lean towards the odd decks, particularly Bully, because, again, it's one of these tech cards, right? But it's very hard for like the aggressive archetypes to kind of combat Reno Priest. Their removal is often so cheap that something like Cult just isn't good enough, and it's not that effective in other matchups. So yeah, if you're an aggressive deck, often the best answer is an aggro deck. It's less about teching for what your opponent's doing, and it's just like playing your best 30 cards. Like that's the truth. Whether you're playing like aggro druid or I don't know, like secret mage. If you're playing secret mage, maybe you want to load up on anti-spell stuff, but there's really not that much you can do. Just try and execute whatever you're trying to, like your game plan and stuff. But
and just hope they don't have the answers.
Tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, just hope they don't draw the Reno. That's the game. That's it.
Okay. And so then other slower decks, right? So I'm thinking stuff like Evenlock or Q-Block or maybe some Jade Druid. I've been messing around with a little bit of Q-Block, and like Doomguards might make a comeback, maybe. Or maybe the Egg Q-Block with Albatross makes a comeback. Who knows?
Nerubian Weblore. No, sorry.
The Unraveler.
Unraveler. Yeah, that's a good option, I think.
Zihi and Evenlock, really nice. I think is going to be good.
Yeah, so you do have some options of slower decks, but yeah, generally it's just more about like trying to pressure them. Like whatever you can to do put pressure on. If you're a slower archetype, then go for it. Leroy Faceless Power Overwhelming combo. You've been playing that, and we'll get to that I think later. That's a great option for like Reno Lock against Reno Priest as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of people talk about Finley and Grizzle Wizard, and I mean, I would like to hear your take on this because I have. Personally, I think they are so garbage in any matchup that's not Reno Priest. Like they're actually detrimental to your success. That unless Reno Priest is like more than 50% of the metagame, like you can't be running these two cards. I know it feels really damn good when you do it against a Reno Priest, but it's like sticky fingers, right? Where unless Kingsbane was like 50% of the metagame, it's like actually detrimental to your win rate, right? I don't know if you feel the same way, but I'm just trying, personally, I'm trying to shy people away from running that in literally every slow deck that they have.
Yeah, I would really avoid this one, guys. These cards are so terrible as standalones, and often they're played as like one-ofs a piece, which makes them like super inconsistent that you even get to it against the Reno Priest and stuff. I don't know. I don't really think there's any deck that I would really want to play this in. Off the top of my head. So yeah, I would avoid this one. These like really, really niche tech cards are generally pretty bad, especially when they have to be like drawn together. That's kind of the worst part. So yeah, I'd avoid it.
Yeah, like I think Beneath the Grounds is like okay because it's just like you draw it once and you disrupt their game plan. Where this is like two singleton cards, right? That you really have no way to tutor for, right? And so it's even more difficult to assemble the combo. And they are so bad in other matchups. Like, yeah, I'm glad you're on the same game plan. Guys, unless you're seeing 50% Reno Priest, please don't do it. It's not worth it, okay? Trust us, you'll thank us in the long run. But yeah, so those are our thoughts on the decks and the nerfs and the metagame. I mean, you guys probably agree or disagree with us, right? So let us know in the comments below how you think the metagame's going to play out, what list you're going to be rocking, whether you disagree and you want to run Finley and Wizard and tell us why. Or maybe we're just missing some insane tech cards. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this section. Nerfs are always super exciting because it's basically like a little mini expansion coming out on Tuesday, which is great.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's move on to part 2. So yeah, wild news. We kind of touched on the big piece already. We've got nerfs coming, but we've also got buffs. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about buffs. So we have Totem Goliath getting buffed, right? So it's now a 5-mana 5/5 overload 1. Death Battle summon all the totems. I'm excited for this one because I want to play a little bit with it in a meme deck in Odd Shaman, like Odd Totem Shaman. I don't know. We were talking about this a little bit earlier. I don't think it makes Odd Totem Shaman good. Don't get me wrong. But outside of that, probably not going to see play. You think?
Yeah, I think this is I think like the fact that it's a death rattle means it's just so slow. So for wild, I don't think this would see play maybe at 4 mana. Like maybe the current version would, but we were talking before the show that the OG version, if you just knock the mana off, I don't even think you played an even shaman, which got a reaction out of me out. But
well,
but yeah,
to be fair, my reaction was assuming that the buffed version wouldn't see play in even shaman.
The buffed version, that's right.
Give myself a little bit.
Yeah, sorry. Just the fact though that it is a death rattle, it's just like so low impact. Like I really can't see this doing anything for wild. But yeah, I mean, I kind of wish it was like a battle cry, but yeah.
I mean, the idea behind giving it a little bit of protection against AoE, which might be relevant with Priest, but even then, like Odd Totem Shaman probably is not anywhere near playable enough anyway. So let's stop talking about it and let's talk about Arcwitch Willow. So 8 mana 5/5 now. Battle Cry, pull a demon from your hand and deck. You had some pretty strong opinions about this one as well. You thought that was going to be pretty good, right?
Good. Yeah, I think it's a good card. So I think you can play this in Cube probably. I think that like 8 mana get out like a Void Lord and a Dread Lord or something. Doesn't even have to be that extreme, right? It can just be like a Void Caller and another demon. I mean, that's pretty great. This is a big deal though, the fact that it's moving from 9 to 8, because it means that obviously on turn 8 you're not really like on turn 8, if you're playing out your Dreadlord, then there's no more fuel for your Willow on turn 9. Now the fact that they're the same mana cost means that you always go for the Willow rather than playing out the Dreadlord itself. I think it's a really, really, like, it's a lot of tempo, guys, on turn 8, so it's obviously very strong, I think. Will it make that much of a difference? 8 mana is a lot of mana. We'll see. You were touching on Doom Guards earlier as well for Arena Priest and trying to like counter pressure like that. This card, I think, gets better in that archetype, like the more demons that you have. And the fact that you'll be having Doom Guard means it has very like immediate effect. So if you're running like Doom Guards and Dreadlords and Void Lords, like you're going all out with all the heavy demons that you can, then yeah, I can definitely see this being like a really, really, really strong include. Yeah, cool card. Happy with the buff.
I mean, I think it comes down to how many demons are you actually running in your deck, right? Because like there's always this fine line of you want to streamline the amount of demons that you're running so that like your Sense Demons hits your Void Caller so that you can have Void Caller on 4 consistently, right? But then also maybe it's just like worth it, right? Like if you'd still probably run your Sense Demons and now you have like 10 demons or 9 demons, right? Double Void Caller, double Doomguard, double Dreadlord, double Void Lord, and a Mal'Ganis, and then a Willow. And then Gul'dan.
Like I said,
yeah.
it just depends on the list.
Yeah.
Like it depends on the list, but I can imagine this being very strong in some specific versions of, like Q block.
Yeah. All right. So there's experimentation to be had, but there might be potential with Arcwitch Willow. Q block maybe getting another buff. I can't see it in Arena Lock unless you're running like a really jank like cruel version with like all the demons. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. But other than that, when they nerfed. Other than that, when they announced the nerfs, there was a couple of other things in there that I just want to make sure that everybody knows about. So there's a standard Brawliseum coming out. So this is like the heroic tavern brawl, right? So you pay 1,000 gold to enter, and if you hit 10, 11, or 12 wins, you get like insane payoffs and gold and golden cards and packs, which is awesome. So if you're it is standard, right? Not wild. But some of you guys play multiple
Stop practicing, guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Show them that wild players are no joke, right? And then they announced some new solo content that's going to be going on for like the next 10 to 12 months. The wording in the like announcement makes me think that this is just the new solo content and this is not actually that new promised game mode that they talked about that's going to be coming in this expansion cycle. I really hope it's not.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. And then last but not least, there's a new Wild Mega Pack bundle for those of you guys that are interested. 56 packs over, I think, 7 expansions that are Wild exclusive, and there's 8 packs per. The last time they did this, I think this was like the Toki bundle, and it was like 35 USD for 50 something packs. And so if it's like 30 USD, it's a pretty damn good deal if you are looking to expand your collection and can afford to, spend that money, or if you're just looking to stock up on some dust, it's a pretty good like exchange rate. Again, if you can afford to. I know these times kind of make it a little bit difficult for everybody, but just putting that out there that this is coming. It's coming next week with the nerfs, so keep an eye out on it in the store. I don't think there's anything else we missed in the wild news as far as I know.
I think we're good.
All right, so let's move on to part 3. All right, so in part 3, here's where we talk about our decks of the week. A top meta deck, and an under the radar deck that we think is sneaky good, or a meme deck that we've really been messing around with and enjoying, for those of you guys that aren't into the super tryhard legend thing. So yeah, let's talk about meta deck. And you kind of had this claim that this deck that we're about to talk about might actually be meta coming soon.
Yeah, I've been seeing a fair amount of Totem Mage on ladder. I ran into a couple mirrors when I was tracking myself, and I was like, oh, I thought I was trying to be a hipster here, just trying to play something a little off. But no, Totem Mage has been popping up here and there with Concerned Mum, really like parting and kind of like one-tricking the deck for a bit now, it feels like. I saw Zeddy was also playing in the Hit Legend with it, so I'm sure a lot of people net deck that. But yeah, Totem Mage is really good in Standard. It's gone through very rapid refinement with Eddie. Eddie's list becoming very popular in Standard, and so a lot of people trying it in Wild. It gets some really cool includes in Wild that make it, well, I say cool. I'm sure a lot of people aren't really happy about Ice Block, but yeah, infinite Ice Blocks. You get things like Healbot, Ziliax, Meteorologist is such a clean win condition. So yeah, get some really good upgrades. I think that this list, personally, like, I think that there might be some movement towards something that's seeing a bit more playing Standard, where in Standard they're running more high tempo stuff, particularly in the early game. I think that when Darkglare isn't a thing and you don't have to play things like Weblord maybe, or Doomsayer or Sheep, you can afford to play some of the new high tempo stuff like Wand Thief or Spellwing in the early game, and that could really fight the board. But yeah, Totem Mage, it's a deck that a lot of people seem to like into Priest, because you have this sort of uninteractive win condition, which, good to go, right? Against Priest, that's what you want to be doing, having an uninteractive win condition. And so with the meta kind of looking like it's going to be very Priest-centric, I'm sure it's a deck that a lot of people want to try. And yeah, definitely give it a go, guys. It's a bit different than what we've seen from Mage recently, with this very like slow and then very slow kind of combo win con. So yeah, it's cool. Give it a shot for sure.
All right, I'm not going to lie, I didn't want to interrupt you, but my mind that entire time was you said cool inclusions, and then you said Ice Block, and I was just like, I see what nice you did there. totally planned. Sorry.
Intentional.
But yeah, I'm honestly not excited for this to see play on ladder, because it just feels like it's going to be one of those decks that's going to be like the target of a lot of outcry really, really quickly if it does end up being really good and really popular. Because like you said, nobody likes the uninteractive win cons, right? So... unless you're the one piloting it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe Mom was onto something, and like, I'm kind of scared now to see this on ladder. I really don't want to see it.
I'm a half believer. I think there's a chance it's gonna be competitive, but it's been popping up. We'll see.
Yeah. All right, so we're moving on to our first off meta deck, and I don't really know if we can consider this off meta because it's like a deck that's existed for 4 years, but it's a deck that I haven't seen on ladder in like 4 years. No, just kidding. But Jade Druid, it looks like it's back. We've seen a little bit of refinement. So NHL fan hit rank 3 legend, I believe, with this deck on the America server. Essentially, the major change here from previous versions is that you're running the Guardian Animals package, right? Guardian Animals and Twilight Runner. That package is just kind of insane at deck thinning and drawing through your deck. And it's a pretty insane tempo swing as well, as if you can cheat out a 312 taunt. And then you have the Ysera and then obviously the Jade Wincon. I know we were talking a little bit before the show. We really didn't like the inclusion of a one of Plague, but that's obviously like a high legend tech for probably all the arena priests that they were queuing into. I don't know. I think still a little bit of refinement to go on with this list.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a few changes that you could definitely look at, but the general idea of like Guardian Animals in Jade Druid, I think Druid lists in general should, in Wild, definitely be looking to abuse Guardian Animals. Like, it's a very, very strong card and package that a lot of people are familiar with in Standard, so giving it a shot in Jade makes a ton of sense to me.
Yeah, especially if you're going back to this minion-centric build with Oaken Summons and Ysera anyways, like Twilight Guardian, Guardian Animals Twilight Runner. This package seems like a perfect fit in that deck, right? Anyways. So yeah, maybe this list goes through some refinement once Darkglare gets nerfed, right? Maybe you don't need the double seeds and you can put in the play against something else. We'll see. But yeah, Jade Druid, it's back. Yay! And then moving on to our second off meta deck, Corbett's got a special deck. A brand new idea that he wants to share with all of you.
Oh, I was so desperate to share this idea. But yes, here is Secret Mage. I promise, I swear Meowth twisted my arm on this one. But yeah, here is a Secret Mage list running Polka. For some reason, people have not been playing Polka in their Secret Mage lists. I keep on going to like HRS Replay, and there has been nothing, absolutely nothing in terms of the inclusion. And it doesn't make any sense to me because the card is fantastic at Secret Mage. Secret Mage is still like a pretty good deck. In fact, I think that might be underselling it. I think Secret Mage is quite damn good, despite what some people might have you believe. And despite the fact that it is very underplayed, it feels like, particularly at higher ranks. People like to crap on Secret Mage and say that it's only good at Dumpster. But I think that what it does, and the fact that you have like the Polka to consistently get the Alunith is a really, really big deal, right? Like you stack the Alunith on top, and then you kind of immediately draw into Crystal Runners or Burn. So all of a sudden you have like double Fireball, double Cloud Prince. Even if they like pop off the Alunith, you still have a ton of reach towards the top of your deck, and you can start directing everything at the head. I don't know, there's nothing like too revolutionary here with Secret Mage, but I figured that a lot of people hadn't been making this inclusion. I just kind of emphasize again that people should be playing it if they're going to be playing Secret Mage, and the deck is still pretty damn good. And we'll see if it can pop off a little bit once the nerfs go live, once things change a little bit. We'll see.
Yeah, for what it's worth, I only twisted your arm because like nobody was playing Polka and people listened to you.
Yeah.
Right? And so maybe now they'll be playing Good List and we'll see how it performs on ladder.
It's it reminds me a lot, of like standard Face Hunter running Polka, right? Where that's been like a recent thing that's been going on for the past like week or two to put like Dragon's Bane and some of the reach on top.
Gotcha.
And it just makes so much sense like in the Secret Mage list, I think.
Yeah. Polka, that maybe this is a topic for another day, but I've got some thoughts on Polka.
Oh yeah. You got some opinions.
I've got some opinions. Yeah, we'll save that for another episode. But yeah. That's going to be it for us today, guys. We'll be doing these episodes every Sunday with news and decks every week. And just a reminder that we're now on Spotify. So if you guys are on the go and want to still listen, make sure you guys check us out there. Corbett, thank you again for joining me today. Let the people know where they can find you.
Guys, you can find me on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube at CorbettGames. So streaming pretty much daily. So yeah, come check that out. Looking forward to getting into things once the nerfs go live and kind of exploring what that meta looks like. So yeah, check it out. And yeah, thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys did, make sure that you guys like, comment, and subscribe. It's free and it supports us a lot. We appreciate you guys listening. Thank you so much. Hope you all enjoyed. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you guys next time. Later.
Bye, guys.